Hi everyone, it's Laura, and today I'm here to talk about Solo Leveling. I recently reread the first 5 volumes that I own. I've already read the manhwa online, or webcomic. I don't really know the difference between webcomic and manhwa, but I read it online fully. And I'm buying the volumes as they come, and so I've read the first 5. I have not read them physically before, and I'm here to recommend it to anyone that might be interested in it. Unfortunately, for the life of me, I cannot think of what a lot of people say it is. It's like a power scaling or a power ranking type story. But basically, the story is they have beautiful covers, but the main character, Sung Jin-woo, does not look like this. He kind of looks more like this. So I'm gonna hold up the second volume for this. It's basically about a world. It's modern day. The main character, he's Korean, and in this world, in modern day, 10 years ago, these portals opened up to other dimensions that have since been dubbed gates. And no one knows the cause or the reason behind these portals opening up. And when people went inside to explore, they found monsters and different types of beings. And unfortunately, modern day technology like guns and everything like that, or just normal swords, didn't really do much damage to them. And at the same time, certain people have been gifted abilities that make them hunters. And these people can go in the gates, and they have skills of like magic, or they can become a tank, or anything like from video games or online games. There's different classifications that way. I'm not a gamer, so I don't necessarily know all the specific rules. I just know that some people are physically strong and they have like taunt skills and stuff, and then there are mages that have like fire magic and things like that. And then there are people like there's an assassin class, but I personally don't know all the intricacies or what you could expect if they say they're a different class. So people who are into gaming might understand that aspect more, but even though I'm not a gamer, I still really enjoyed the story. So unlike a lot of other anime or stories that I've heard about that have a similar premise as this type of thing, normally a lot of isekai. In this world, what happens is when you get your abilities, you can never level up. So unlike a lot of other stories where you train hard, you buy goods, or you work on skills and you rank up so you're the best of the best of the best, that doesn't happen here. Yes, you can still improve, like, you know, fighting techniques. If you're a fighter, a physical fighter that was blessed with like inhuman strength or something, you can still say take a martial arts class and improve your technique, but you'll never get stronger. And there are ranks like a lot of other things where there's S rank is the top, A rank, B, C, D, and then E is the lowest of the low. And Sung Jin-woo is an E rank. Not only is he an E rank, he's dubbed the weakest hunter in the world because he is a weak E rank. But he has family reasons, familial reasons, that the benefits of being a hunter outweigh other jobs. Like they have insurance and they have benefit packages so that if anything were to happen to him on a raid, then his family would be taken care of. And he is basically the breadwinner in his family. His mother is sick in the hospital, and his younger sister, she is in high school and she has dreams of becoming a doctor, and he really wants to see that happen. And his father is nowhere to be found. You do find out what happened or where he is or what's the deal is with his father, but only much later, so I'm not going to say anything about that. He's not there. But so basically, the gates are given ranks based on the mana waves that come out, and they appear at random. Sometimes they can show up like, you know, in a room in an abandoned building or a factory, or sometimes they're in the middle of a highway. Anywhere they can show up. And then the rules basically are that they have to be cleared, aka like the boss has to be killed within 7 days, or else there's a dungeon break. And the gate is basically 2 ways now, so that any monsters that are in the dungeon can come out to our world. So there are guilds, and people recruit promising new hunters once they're assessed, and it's really interesting, and it's affected the economy in South Korea and the rest of the world, and there's just a whole lot on that aspect too. But the main story is following Sun Jin-woo, and he, like I said, is the lowest of the low. And then at the beginning of the story, he is part of a crew that is in a low ranked dungeon. I believe it's a D ranked dungeon, and it turns out to be a double dungeon. So they clear these monsters, and then they find another path and another set of doors. And something happens in the double dungeon. It's very terrifying. The artwork is phenomenal for that part. And then something happens where Sun Jin-woo is able to get skills and level up. And so being taunted as the weakest hunter of all time for years, he fully takes advantage of that, and he does his best to level up and become as strong as possible. And the reasons behind why he is able to have these skills and what exactly is going on behind the scenes, I found it intensely interesting, and so not what I would have expected when I first started reading, but I was fully on board and sold. I first came to know about the series after watching the anime that is being adapted, and I think I watched like 2 or 3 episodes and I was all in, and I found the webcomic and I read everything. And so then I was eagerly waiting for the new episodes each week to come out. There are 12 episodes right now, waiting on the second season. It's been announced, they've had some teasers, but I think that's not coming out until early 2025, from what we just heard at some convention or something. But I'm super excited because basically the first season was just a lot of the teaser and the prologue for like the meat of the story. So like we're gonna get into some of the good stuff in season 2. So I'm super excited. But there are basically 200 chapters online of the webcomic, although that's a little debatable on where, if the ending is. I know people sometimes joke about like the Lord of the Rings movies, about like how many endings there are, and I found it kind of similar in this webcomic, because the major story basically ends around, I think it was chapter 193 when I checked, and then there are chapters after that touch on some of the main characters that you meet along the way and like what happens to them, and it's kind of like an epilogue, follow-up, feel-good thing. But there's also like a random chapter in there that's just basically a filler or a what-if episode. It's very bizarre. So not all of it is necessarily necessary. But these first 5 volumes, they go up to chapter 81 of the webtoon, and the anime only covered up to chapter 45. So there's still quite a lot to be adapted. Of the volumes, the physical copies, there are 9 out currently, and the 10th one is coming out in November. So probably in November I'll buy the next 5 because I'm super excited to reread this. The downside though is that from the webcomic is that, like, you notice this one, I have kind of the post-it note sticking out because I just had to note how bizarre it is at one point, because in his leveling up, it is treated almost like a video game. So there are windows with his stats that you get to see. And so that's how you kind of know where he is throughout his journey. And in some of them, I'm going to try and bring it close to the camera so you can see. I don't know how much you can see. In the physical form, even with my glasses, it is too hard to read. Thankfully, it hasn't come up often, but like in this panel, it is almost too tiny to read the current stats. I mean, I have to look really hard, and like down here in this one, I don't but so that's a downside that I found in the physical copy, where obviously if in the webtoons you can zoom in a bit more, but it's very rare that I found that to be an actual thing. So I do still think the physical copy is well worth it, and I do love having it on my shelves. But I love so many of the fights, and the artwork I just find so beautiful in so many different panels. I mean, even like this cover is from a panel further in this edition. It's just so pretty. I love a lot of it. So this is just my recommendation. If that sounds like kind of an interesting story to anybody, I would highly recommend maybe checking out the anime, seeing if it's up your alley, reading the webcomic if it is. You get on board before season 2 comes out, probably in January or so. I think it's well worth it. Although I would also stress that there is a sequel series kind of, and I personally did not like that one. From what I understand, the creator of Solo Leveling passed away before even the completion of Solo Leveling was done. The last few chapters that I was talking about, kind of like the epilogues, follow up with different characters, it even has a note on the webcomic about like in memory of the creator. And so the sequel, I have to assume, is just created by the same creative team. I don't assume the story was initially intended that way from the original creator of this story, because the sequel follows his son. And I don't know if there was a webtoon, but I actually was reading, because I think there's also light novels of this, but I haven't read that. I just read the webcomic and this, which is the same thing as the webcomic in printed form. So I don't know if there are differences between the light novel and the manhwa, but I was reading what I believe is the light novel of the sequel, and I disliked it a lot because his son, I just find very annoying and aggravating. And he's a teenager, so I can kind of understand that I'm not in the mood to read a lot of teenage protagonists anymore at my age. But a lot of the world building also basically seems to kind of undo the finale of this original series, and that really aggravates me. Why undo stuff that was basically tied up really well and in a satisfying way for me? So I think I got something like somewhere between 15 to 20 chapters in, and did I make it that far? Maybe 10 to 15 chapters. And I just gave up out of sheer frustration. And so in my headcanon, it ends here. But if anyone is interested and does like this world, then yes, there is also a follow-up. Maybe you'll enjoy it more than I do, but just fair warning. So that is my pitch. That I think if any of this sounds interesting, please give it a try. Is it earth-shattering or groundbreaking? No. But I almost like the anime more because seeing a lot of these panels brought to life and the fight scenes are just so impeccable and the animation is so well done that I loved reading it in the webcomic form. That scene animated was even better. So yeah, it doesn't have such profound, thought-provoking questions, you know, maybe like Frieren, and it might not be the best anime of all time, like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which I also love, but I seriously like it for what it is, and I would highly recommend it to anybody that is into this type of story. So that's my pitch and my recommendation, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.